Okay, so this is the upgrade from the old style encoder to the new style encoder. Should take about 15-20 minutes to do. Okay, so the first step is to take off this old encoder assembly, and to do that you've got the Torx T20 screwdriver piece there. So it's these two bolts here, one here and one here. Two. Then that encoder assembly should then lift off. Okay, the next step would be to turn the operator over. So you have the bottom base facing you. It's then a 5mm Allen key into one of these. You might find that these are really tight because they've been Loctited into position using a thread glue. So you might have to put quite a lot of force onto this. You might even have to gain some extra leverage, like so. Well, and that base will just come off. Now there's two studs that have been pressed into the base of the unit there. Check those, make sure there's no distortion on them. If there is, you might want to think about removing them. If not, they'll be absolutely fine to be reused again. And like I said, they're location pins, so yeah, they'll be fine to use again as long as they're in a condition like this. So put that to one side. Then put the unit onto its side like so. We're then going to get a hammer. It's better to get a plastic hammer, or think about any impact damage that you might occur to this old pinion. Like I said, it's not a massive deal because it's not going to be used again. So okay, so once we've got the bottom base off, we're then ready to knock it through. Depending on the age, depends on how easily this is going to come out. It should be fairly straightforward, but it's going to take a bit of persuasion. So, as you can see, it's starting to lift out now. Now would be a good time to put your hand over it just to make sure that it doesn't disappear anywhere. Okay, so that's that part. Turn the operator over, and this centerpiece should just lift out. Okay, we can put that to one side. So now you should be left with effectively that without a bottom base on, just seeing the rack in there. So the next stage is to grab the bottom piece that we've just knocked out, put a good dollop of grease around the seal. And that can be located in. It's going to take some tapping, so make sure that you don't start tapping this in at any kind of angle. So it's best to work with your way around. Okay, and that should be perfectly flush. You shouldn't feel any lip there at all. That should all sit nicely. Okay, so very important thing to remember then is to use this 630000560 gasket. That will sit in there. Again, I'd always recommend greasing around that. Like so. So in the bag there we've got the two pins, but ours are okay, and the two bolts which have got, as you can see, Loctite on them. The new base, in comparison to the old one, has obviously the cutout for the encoder. Okay, that sits facing upwards. See it coming out of the slot there for it. Okay, make sure it's obviously, you want the bolt holes obviously facing where it's going to bolt into the casing, so make sure that's the right orientation. Once you're happy with that, you might feel that these are quite tight, and that would just be the Loctite that's that you're dealing with there, but persevere and just keep going. As long as you're not cross-threaded, then it's not going to do any damage. So flipping this back over, I'll then be able to locate the clips of the encoder onto there. So this is the new one, this is the old one with the magnet and without the magnet. It's a good idea to put lots of grease within these grooves. It will just help the longevity of the unit. Put a good amount. It's best not to put too much. There's a balance between putting too much and too little on there. Obviously you want the gears to be meshed with the grease, but when you pop that in there, you don't want too much grease around the bottom so that you get a hydraulic lock and it will push the pinion out. So just enough to lubricate it really on the bottom. Make sure you've got plenty around in the teeth there. And just take a little bit of that excess onto the top there, make sure it's nice and slippery. Then remembering where the location dot was. And goes in, sits down like that. With the new top assembly, which is the same as the old style but less holes, look, it's only got 2 holes in there. With that, it's got the same gasket around the bottom that the bottom one had, so we'll grease up that gasket and we'll also put a little bit of grease in there just to help around the output shaft. So just making sure that's right up and on that seal. And then these 2 holes here will line up . Okay, and that should again be like the bottom, so there's not really much of a lip there. All the way down to the last screws there. And once we've screwed these up, we'll just wipe the excess grease off around it. Then it's ready for testing. Just using this rag to get a bit more purchase on the screwdriver where my hands are a little bit greasy there. They want to be nipped up tight. Last piece to go on, this just seals down on top of here. Again, I wouldn't go too mad on the grease there. I would just put just a little seal around there. Just moisten the seal up really. You're you're not looking at lubricating it. Okay, that locates on there like so. Then the only trick I've got for this is using the old parts that came off. That goes down on there. That bit goes down on there. And that should give you just enough space, so that's just still slightly proud. And that'll be home. Just make sure that you can't get your fingernails or anything underneath that too far.